You don't have a vortex cannon there.
No, unfortunately we don't. But we'll try to find one for tomorrow.
That can be the homework.
Okay, yeah. Can you see?
Okay, let's see. Can I see you? Yes, I can see. Can everybody see me?
Wrong way. Okay, so this is William Irvine from the University of Chicago, and he's going to tell us about how to make all these topological objects we've been talking about, but in something really, really soft, which is fluids. Okay? Pretty surprising. So, thanks very much for doing this, William. And I turn the floor over to you.
Okay, thank you. So I should say, it's a pleasure to do this group here. I'm very sorry I can't be there with you. Here it's a beautiful place, and I look forward to another chance in the future, maybe. So, okay, so please, first of all, start by saying, can everybody hear me clearly? Is the sound okay? All stuff? Yes. Okay. So please, just in case this is going to be lectures, so just jump in and interrupt and ask questions as much as possible. In fact, can somebody ask a question to see if I can hear you?
Any question?
Can you hear me? Are you wearing a belt? Are you wearing a belt today? I can't see.
Okay.
I have.
Hi, Greg.
Hi.
Okay, so I guess as Mark said, I'm going to talk about, I guess I'm going to try to give you an introduction to what I think is a sort of growing and emerging field in condensed matter physics, which is a sort of area of knotted fields. So there's a sort of set of questions which we're interested in understanding, which at their essence have one underlying question, which is what is the underlying role for topology, and in particular the geometry and topology of knots, in continuous physical fields. So let me just make this very concrete with an example right away, which is one which we're going to be using to introduce a lot of the ideas throughout. I think this is going to work. Let's see. I go to here, then here, and then oops, that. And then I go to here and here. Okay, can everybody see the slide?
No. Not yet, but it may come in a second. Let's see if it worked before.
Worked before, because I have to start. So now we create a tunnel. Here we go. Okay. So let's see.
Yes.
Okay. Everybody can see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so what you're looking at here is it's a picture. It's a picture taken in our lab over here. And what you're looking at is a picture taken in a water tank, a few feet by a few feet. It's what you're looking at are bubbles. Little bubbles of air and water, and what you can see is that there's some random ones everywhere, but there's also some of them which are aligned along these lines. And these lines are in fact kind of tracking the bubbles. These lines correspond to our vortices inside the fluid. They're concentrated vortices inside the fluid. So analog, if you like, you're taking a tornado and kind of twisting it around, closing it. And this picture was taken from an experiment in which the goal was to make these kind of vortex loops. Okay? And instead of tying them in rings, which is what we normally do, you might see these in the form of smoke rings, the goal of these experiments was to cut them into knots. And so you can sort of, so at every point along these lines, the fluid is spinning around it, okay? And imagine how kind of understanding what happens to these lines, to these essentially sort of tornadoes wrapped around themselves, is a very kind of non-local three-dimensional problem. You have to worry not just about the alignments, but also about sort of way in which the fluid flows all around it, and how it kind of like has to adapt to the fact that it's a three-dimensional topological object. So this is a kind of concrete example of an excitation, which if you could make it would be knotted, it would be inside a continuous field, in this case a fluid flow, and we sort of want to understand its physics. But there's many more examples, which I'll get to in a minute. It's kind of, in fact, hard to talk about this topic without kind of paying homage to the origin of these ideas and where it came from, so let me spend a few minutes doing that. So this whole having knots and topology have a role in physics dates back to Kelvin. And there's a nice story that goes with it, so I thought I'd tell you about it. So the story goes, Lord Kelvin was attending a lecture in Cambridge, and part of this lecture involved the demonstration by Peter Guthrie, who was a sort of brilliant young scientist of the time. And part of this lecture, the demonstration, okay, and then this demonstration consisted of, and I invite you to try and make one of these for tomorrow if you can, getting a box, okay, putting some smoke inside this box, and then cutting a hole in the side of the box, and pushing the air out of the box impulsively, which must have looked something like this. So this, of course, this demonstration done over here. This, of course, is not Peter Guthrie Tate. This is Dustin Kleitner, who's a postdoc in my lab, and who, together with Martin Schiele, is responsible for a lot of the work which you're going to see and we're going to talk about later on. But in any case, so the point is that this lecture included this demonstration, and the subject of the lecture was the circulation theorems, which we're going to get to later on either today or tomorrow. And what the circulation theorems tell you is that if you make a ring like this, in an ideal fluid, without dissipation, then this ring is indestructible. You can't break it, persist forever. And you have to remember, this was a time in which nobody really knew what atoms were. They knew that atoms were around, so everybody was sort of, but they didn't know what they were, so everybody was sort of trying to think of a possible simple building block out of which you could build atoms. And it was also a time in which the superluminal ether was still in fashion. So people thought there was this kind of effectively super fluid or perfect fluid that kind of permeated space everywhere. And so the story goes that the Kelvin had the sort of inspiration that, aha, here's an object. If I can make it in an ideal fluid, it's indestructible, so it's the stability of atoms. And if I could only imagine tying it into knots, then I could build complexity out of this simple, persistent building blocks. So atoms must be knots tied in vortices in superluminal ether. So it's a kind of like a beautiful idea. It's a little sort of faint idea, in the sense that it not provide a theory of atoms. It is by no means a failed idea in of its own, because it really gave rise to enormous amounts of developments across physics and mathematics. In fact, one way in which this happened was that this idea was so inspiring to Tate, that Tate went away and sort of constructed this table you see in the bottom left corner, which was a table of knots. And he was building this in order to see if he could recreate the structure which didn't work. But once he'd done this, this was the table of knots which was sitting there with no classification. And so, of course, this was a kind of challenge which mathematicians took up, and they developed the entire field of knot mathematics in response. And the goal of this field is essentially to come up with a number that you can compute from a knot, uniquely classifies it. And it's in fact a very interesting problem, still an open problem. A lot of progress has been made. Still, the question remains an open. If I'm given a particular knot, is there one right that classifies it, remains unanswered. Anyway, but the point is that even though the field is still kind of lively and open, there's a lot of progress that's been made, and this progress kind of came back into physics over the years in many, many different areas. So one example is, kind of exotic field theories, Yang-Mills field theory, or even string theory, and it's kind of then made its way across all branches of physics, all the way to sort of very concrete and very real condensed matter physics. And just to give you sort of an example of sort of a modern incarnation of these ideas, the idea that knotedness and sort of dynamical flows could play a role has come back, for example, in plasma physics, kind of complex, in fact, the opposite of what Kelvin was considering, complex and distributed flows. So here's an example. I'm showing you a picture, sort of zoom in of a picture taken on the surface of the sun. What you see over here are sort of lines. These lines have been lit up. Plasma, which is along them, but in fact, physically they mark kind of both current lines and magnetic field lines, which are coming out of the sun. And the idea is that nodiness is somehow important to these. This is an example. Okay, so apparently this movie has audio. But
we were wondering.
you get the idea of where the picture comes from. Okay, so go back to the picture. Okay, so the idea is that kind of knots and the tangledness of these lines can provide you maybe an insight to understanding this complicated problem that's remained outstanding for many, many years. And in fact, it's not just this kind of complex flow, it's thought lots of country. Another example is classical turbulence. And here I'm showing you sort of, it's a problem that's been around for a long time in physics, all the way back to Leonardo. I'll show it here. One day, okay, there's a picture of sort of simulations. And again, it's a picture of the simulation of Caltech. The flow is represented in the vorticity, and you can see that there's these lines which are sort of everywhere. And the idea is that maybe you can understand something about turbulence by understanding the structure of these lines. Okay? And finally, here's a sort of slightly more recent example. These are simulations. This is a picture of simulations. Again, you see a bunch of lines which are tangled up. And these are simulations of superfluids. And the idea is that these are vortex lines of superfluids, and somehow understanding turbulence in a superfluid, which is supposed to be the typicalness, and so it's kind of funny to understand how turbulence works, might be best understood in terms of the geometry and the nodiness and the structure of these field lines. So here's a sort of few, kind of, if you like, incarnation of these ideas in flows, and in particular in complex flows. But of course, it's not just kind of complex flows that these ideas are kind of re-emerged, and they re-emerged across the whole kind of physics. So here's just a last set of examples to motivate you. Sort of reappeared in some work, sort of study. They reappeared essentially in light fields, for example. So in the top left-hand corner over here, you can see a little video, okay, which shows which shows one of these knots kind of holding inside an electromagnetic field in free space. Get to that later in this lecture if we have time. And in the bottom left-hand corner, you see kind of picture, and this is kind of a picture a beautiful piece of work in which they did both theory and experiment and looked at the analog of Kelvin's vortex rings but in a light field, okay, where you sort of can sort of project this thing deterministically. Of course, there's no dynamics, but they made some sort of beautiful structures. And these are kind of also light, knots in this case with a degree of freedom, which is the phase and amplitude of the laser. Okay? The top left hand is sort of the electromagnetic sort of field lines, which will tie into knots. And then in the top right, you see a picture of a vortex knob. We're going to get back to that in the next couple of lectures. And in the bottom right, you see a sort of representation of a large body of very beautiful work, which is being done, a lot of which is being done in the Advanced Mathematics Lab in Boulder. Also some sort of beautiful contributions from Ljubljana, studied essentially knotted structures in liquid crystals, where you take the director field and you tie this into links, knots, or you take effects inside the director field and tie those into links and knots. Okay? And it's kind of, so you see here's a few examples, there's many more, okay, and you probably will have heard of some of these crystal examples in other lectures. But one of the kind of nice things is the kind of re-emergence of these ideas and the possibility of studying it is that you're kind of taking the first step in a lot of these areas. And this is sort of really because despite the fact that these ideas have been around for a really, really long time, it isn't until recently that we're really able to visualize in 3 dimensions, to even do some calculations involving kind of topological structures. But also, it's until recently that we can really make experiments in three-dimensional control, three-dimensional imaging, and three-dimensional analysis. Really quite kind of primitive until recent years. And so, you know, and so you guys, even though the ideas have been around for over centuries, why is it now that everybody's starting to make progress in discoveries? That's what it is. Okay. So one of the nice things about being in an area that's sort of emerging is that it doesn't matter what system you study, since what you're asking are what are the basic rules for knots and knot structures in optical fields. A lot of what you learn in one system can carry across to other systems. And so, kind of, if you like, you can think of this as a sort of general problem of topological design. How do you make knotted structures? How do you analyze them? How do you visualize them? And anything that you sort of learn in one area can cross to other areas. Okay, so I think that's enough in terms of motivation. I think what I want to do is sort of try and illustrate how these questions and this sort of like hierarchical design play out instead of sort of going to many systems by looking at the system in particular. And if we have time, we'll look at two. And the system which I'm going to sort of choose for that, it's sort of a system consisting of basically studying vortices, the topology of vortices inside fluids. So we're basically going to be looking at vortex loops, like one Dustin made clear that you saw in the video. We're looking at experiments in which we try to take these and tie them on themselves and tie them into knots. And along the way, we're going to introduce all the basic laws of motion, vortex dynamics, try to sort of work out in detail how the questions arrive and how this will play out. So just to set the scene, before we switch back to the blackboard, we show you a video, which actually big impact on our thinking. So I didn't say this, but it turns out since despite the idea of a knotted vortex, Kelvin's sort of vortex hypothesis being the idea that started this entire field, nobody recently had successfully made a knotted vortex in a experiment. So that's one of the things that sort of working on over here, which I'll tell you about. But one of the things you worry about when you try to do something like that is, well, why hasn't it been done? Years, it must be difficult, and so on and so forth. We have better 3D control now, but really, is this ever going to be possible? And seeing this video, which I'll show you in a minute, really convinced us that yes, it's possible. And it really sort of sets the tone for a lot of what we're going to be talking about in the next 3 lectures. So here it is. Apparently also this movie has audio. So what you see over here is one of these vortex loops. In this case, it's not a smoke ring, it's a vortex made in water by this dolphin. And what you also see is the dolphin can sort of really control it and manipulate it and has a way with it. And so we wanted to sort of see if we could at least approximate this control and see if we could then eventually make one of these tied into a knot. Okay, so let's see. So has everybody, let's see here, no? Okay. Okay. So, okay. So, let me just skip this for a second. Okay. And just before we sort of, so basically, from a topological point of view, what we're going to be focusing on is knots and vorticity. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about vorticity and how it works and how it works. And this is a sort of separately a very interesting topic of its own. And the reason it's a very interesting topic of its own is that really vorticity is really what gives life to a fluid flow. Okay? If you think about sort of flows, you've seen many fluid flows in your life, right? These sort of fluid flows behind airplanes or every time you sort of put your hand in a stream and you look at what happens downstream of it, it always has a kind of liveliness, an interesting dynamic to it. And this really is something that is sort of only ever present when you inject vorticity. Okay? So by vorticity, what I mean is, let me see. Okay, by vorticity, what I mean is sort of omega. So if we describe the flow of fluid, we'll come back to this in a second, by a velocity u everywhere. Okay, and the kernel of this velocity is the vorticity omega, and this is really kind of the thing that sort of drives the flow. And the subject of today's lecture is really going to be understanding omega and its dynamics. Let me just show you a couple of examples of how omega really gives life to a flow. And here you're seeing a video of the flow past the wing. You can see it's kind of boring up till now, okay? And now it's starting to get really interesting. There's a bunch of stuff that's sort of up on the back end of the wing. And as you pull the wing higher and higher and higher, it really gets interesting and starts oscillating and has a lot of life. And really the difference between this and the end of that fluid is the fact that vorticity gets injected into the flow. And similarly, you've sort of seen this in, for example, in sort of flow behind the plate or flow over an object. It's all kind of boring and smooth and very confined to the object until you get vorticity that sort of gets detached and comes off. Okay? And here, likewise in the big flows. Okay. So what I want to talk about today is really the basics of vorticity, vortex motion, how we understand it, what the equations that describe it. And that will be the subject today. And then we're going to go on to sort of piecing this back together with what notes in the next couple of questions. So, is that pretty familiar? I just put the Navier-Stokes equations over here and switch back to being able to see you. It's kind of very eerie doing this without seeing your audience. So let me see if I can. I hope that all made sense. I was looking at a computer screen.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Okay. So that's okay. So everybody, has ever studied fluid dynamics before? No. A couple. Okay. Good. So some of you are familiar with the equations which I put up on the board before. Okay. Navier-Stokes equations. That equation is fluid flow. Okay. Let's see. I think I can put them up in parallel. Let me put up. Let me see. Okay. So, so the three equations. The most important one, which we're going to be worried about, this equation over here. Okay. And for those of you who haven't answered this equation, this will be very quick, but I hope you'll get tuition. For those who have seen it before, still get some information from this. So this is the kind of three equations from before. There were three equations. The other two are too long to write. Just a moment ago. And this sort of fundamental equation describes this kind of funny. Let me start by illustrating a very simple, some of them a little more standard. So, what this equation describes is the conservation of momentum for particles inside the fluid. And the other two equations which I showed describe the conservation of energy and the conservation of mass. And let me with an energy. About making things like conserved quantities, right, and mass, and so objects in the fluid, and keeping track of how it happens. Okay, and that's essential kind of fluid dynamics in a nutshell. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, this equation up here is the momentum equation. Okay, and describe a few of the symbols. V positive. the velocity of the fluid needs the correction is fluid. Rho is the density. And nu is the viscosity. This object is really a time derivative, right? But it's a time derivative which keeps track of how properties change in a fluid, not in your position in space, but you follow the fluid along, right? Which is sort of natural thing. So let's just do a quick thought experiment to understand where this comes from. Actually, you are kind of sitting in some fluid, you're watching some stream go by, you drop a little ball eye inside your stream. This just sort of binds the muscle lines of the field, flow field. You drop a little dot inside this stream at some point. And you want to know how this falls in the flow. Okay? So, in particular, how we're going to describe the flow. I will describe a concentration by particular flow fluid. So, we're going to have a concentration C, right? Of course, with spatial time, okay? We want to know how the concentration within this plot varies. Plot moves from place to another. Basically, going to have so we want the change. Let's say we want change from here to where we move this new over here. That's going to be given by concentration at the new position I. Position is really just the position. It's the velocity, the x direction, times delta t, plus, okay, it's really the old position, it's the velocity in the y direction, times delta t, and the new z direction, the old z position, z direction, delta t, and the new time is just the old time plus delta t. And if we want to change it, what you're computing is the concentration at the new place space time minus the concentration. And so you can sort of see, if we now consider an infinitesimal expression, we want to consider what happens infinitesimally if it moves, then stack this term over here in a series. So the first term is just original position, which is going to cancel this one here. Then we start to get like dx, the t, by dx, first order expansion, plus similar y, d by pi, c, etc. Finally, we have there is this one, so I put it there. Instead of t, d by z. Okay, and finally, we have time derivative. We have delta t, d by dt concentration. Okay, so you can write this whole thing as d by dt. As the concentration, we can pull out this expression delta t, and then we have essentially velocity vector gradient acting on the concentration. So it's just literally the table expression. And this kind of object over here is the so this is delta c, delta c by t. Given by this divided by delta t. So this, but what you see is that this object right here is a derivative. So it's a derivative by t with speed over that. So c can extract a concentration of pi and it features in the flow. This is sort of the ninth term expect, sort of time dependence. With addition, you get this sort of spectrum. which comes from the fact that you're continuous flowing. So this object can, with the hardware, right, importance of it, symbol, name is substantive symbol. Okay. So that takes care of it. This is by d by acting on the velocity. Okay? And it's the substantive. Okay, everybody happy with this? Okay. And so what this really kind of reflects is, so this, okay, so let's substantive this, so all our symbols are defined. Rid of this. So now it's just think about this equation, how we know what the symbols are. Well, the basically it's just conservation of momentum for Newton's law. So what we have here, if you like, is the density times, we know now this gives the rate of change in time of a blob will sort of move fluid. Rho t by t, the velocity, is our effectively our n term. And this is going to be equal to the force, which in this case will be given by the gradient of pressure. It pushes the fluid along. And in addition, there's a possibility which is in fact, which you don't encounter in sort of usual mechanics, and it's which comes from dissipation, okay? And it's this term over here. The physical interpretation, this term over here, is a diffusion term. And it's a term which models the diffusion of momentum. Okay? And you sort of know that this is a process which you should include in your F equals ma equation for a fluid, because you know that in a fluid, when you try to shear, it kind of resists shearing. It's not just when you push it head on, it moves. It's also when you push, for example, with your hand across the surface, it resists that motion. And the reason it resists that motion is that it takes the momentum from the top of where you're sort of putting that motion in, and it lets it diffuse down into the fluid. And it's kind of the general thing that happens. Fluids, since the beginning, fluid dynamics is really about keeping track of how stuff flows around. Okay? So, and generally, in a thermal system, stuff can be flowing two ways. Way is that you take the stuff from A, you literally transport it to, which is this term over here, which is you're transporting them from one place to another. Okay? And the other one is by diffusion. Okay. So let's see. So the other equations, the energy equations, mass, are essentially the same sort of equation. Right? You set up, worry about the transport of energy, right? Just sort of work out what it is exactly. And similarly, work out the transport of mass, right? In cases in the tube, in some cases down, but simply get equations of motion. Okay? So the three equations which I showed before, basically together, it appears that they are the equations that completely capture the behavior of fluids. Of course, except for special circumstances, we have to solve them. So whether or not there could ever be any corrections or additions, who knows? This is sort of what's called the equation of motion. And what I'm going to do now is we're going to make, the reason I'm not making out the other two equations is that we're going to make a simplifying assumption, which is going to make them sort of not so important for us. We're going to assume that our fluid is incompressible. Okay, which basically means that the divergence velocity is equal to 0. And this essentially substitutes our mass approximation. And this is an approximation which is really essentially almost like most of the flows that we experience. It's pretty good approximation for modeling the flow of air on an airplane. It's pretty good at modeling any sort of river flow or anything that you'll sort of experience in real life. And basically, if you want to have at the back of your mind that the single criterion of whether this is a good approximation or not, you want to compare the speeds of, let's say, the fluid to the speed of sound. And if they're much slower than the speed of sound, then this is a good approximation. And the other approximation I'm going to make, at least for the moment, is that the fluid is sort of, let's say, non-conductive. So it's thermally, essentially the temperature part of the flow doesn't really contribute. Insulating. Another part of saying that is that we're going to assume that the flow is sort of isentropic. In other words, changes in the phase inside the fluid, the temperature inside the fluid, aren't important for determining the flow. Okay? And then we're going to switch. We're going to switch on and off. So this one can keep on this off. We're going to occasionally make the assumption that there's no viscosity. Now put viscosity back in. Okay? But with these assumptions over here, essentially we can these two equations over here, they can capture as approximations. So the equation that we worry about is this equation over here. So are there any questions at this point? Okay. So let's see. So sorry?
No, I was just repeating. No question.
Oh, okay, good. So,
So what about the last term in your equation then, the viscosity term?
sorry?
What about the last term in your equation then? Are you dropping that?
Yes, so this is our viscous term, and we're going to sometimes drop it, sometimes put it back in and see what happens.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a sort of, now this is an impossible task to use the whole of dynamics in a few minutes, but I hope you'll go with me. What we're going to do now, since we've already kind of seen that it's really become interesting, at least I shouldn't say that. A lot of flows, whether electricity can also be interesting. Usually they involve objects around inside them, and the fact that flows not to the object doesn't matter. And you probably see a lot of those examples. But if you just have to put objects inside them, the interesting part of dynamics is vorticity. So let's make this equation meet the equation about what we're interested in, which is vorticity, and work from that. So vorticity of a fluid is equal to the curl velocity of the fluid. Okay? And it's kind of what makes flows interesting. So let's see it together. This is our equation for fluid. So what we're going to want is an equation for the motion of vorticity. Okay? So let's get that. When we get that, well, we essentially take the curl of our equation for velocity and see what happens. So in doing this, there's a kind of so in order not to spend too much time doing algebra, I'm going to give you a couple of tricks you use in the steps, right? Then write down the answer and you can work out the steps after this lecture. You're just going to take the curl of this equation. I'm going to do two identities. One is the V cross omega, which is equal to V cross V is the coefficient minus V V. Okay? And And the other one is that curl of the chromosome. Essentially, v dot graph omega dot graph times v. And we use the fact that divergence of v 0, divergence of beta is 0 by definition. Okay? So if you take the curl, if you take the curl of this equation, right? So we take the curl of this, work this out. Okay? This is just 0, okay? Because curl of the grade is 0. Okay? And in this case over here, the curl just works over here. On the right hand side, we have u del squared omega. So what I find is that if you use these identities and work this out, what you obtain is t of omega minus of grad t is equal to u del squared omega. I'll just write this. Okay. So it's one simple step from our equation of fluids to our equation of vorticity. Okay. Of course, in its present form, kind of, well, it depends. If you think in terms of this, but I find it very hard. In its present form, and get partial equation. It's very easy to solve with the fun. So let's sort of make this equation something to understand. Okay? That's what I want to, the last thing which I want to say. So this equation,
can you write the second term a little bigger? Sorry. The omega by dt minus. Yeah.
Okay. Omega dot grad. Okay.
So you still have v in there? So you still have v in there?
No, this is omega dot grad v.
Yeah.
This is v by kilo.
But you have to integrate omega to get v. You have v and omega.
Oh, we're gonna get it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So this is our equation of evolution toward this.
Yeah.
And of course, at any point in time, you can the velocity field, the velocity properties. Because omega is equal to v, and so v rho minus 1 of omega.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Okay, yeah, so we can do it. So let's just think about, let's kind of write this equation. Instead of writing it as an equation, let's write it as a set of rules that allow you to think about the problem. And this set of rules is sort of very useful. It's worked out by Helmholtz on some things in fluid dynamics. Sort of get a name. Codified. The Helmholtz is a vortex motion. We're going to derive and prove this equation just one. To sort of think about and understand. Fluid particles. So fluid particles which have no vorticity, okay, which are initially free of omega, remain free of omega. And I should say, this point at the top, let me switching this to come off. These laws are pretty implicit. We'll come back to the effects we'll discuss in a second. So fluid particles which have vorticity have no vorticity forever. The second law is that vortex lines. And we'll come to what these mean in a second. Move. If you're only going to remember one of these three laws, this is the one you want to learn. kind of hope to understand vortex dynamics. And the third one is that the strength Q is constant. Okay? And this is just a statement that we'll come back to in a minute. It's a statement that if you have a vortex, okay, sort of somehow not aligned, but sort of a fat vortex, a little bit like a flow underneath a cloud before a tornado develops, and you stretch this object over here, the sort of strength as constant, so it kind of speeds up as you make it thinner. We'll come back to that in a second. So, so how do we sort of see how these basic laws of vortex motion come to this equation over here? Basically, key step, I'm going to have to delete. Did everybody got this?
Yeah.
Okay. At least the top part. It's basically the same thing we did. So the thing we did at the beginning to use the substantive was to track the concentration of dye fluid. Okay? So tracking concentration of dye in fluid, we draw a little arrow through a vector, and we want to keep track of how this vector falls inside the fluid. Then we can basically do the same exercise before, except instead of considering concentration at point, we're considering like this bigger, and we're considering little delta S, little vector inside our fluid. So we know that this is given by the velocity. This point is transported into the velocity at point x. Okay. And then the other end is going to be transported by velocity of the newtons. X delta S F plus F okay? Because that's the difference. So, I should say delta of S is going to be given a difference between these two. Because this velocity point, so the difference between this and this. And so now it's kind of a super Taylor expansion. Exactly the same thing we did before, just a little bit up. And what we're saying is this. P of delta S, which is our local vector, is equal to delta S dot rate P. That's how looks at for a little kind of blob of dye which we draw in the form of a little arrow inside our fluid. And so one of the things which we'll test right away is that this equation over here, unboxing the second of you see, okay? This equation over here looks just like this equation. Okay? Essentially, it's the same equation. If we imagine now that a little vector delta S, just some random little delta S that just kind of the middle of the fluid, we have a particular kind of distribution of vorticity of this fluid. And so we have little ohmic arrows where the fluid. Okay? We join them up with dots to make a line, the tangent of this line, vorticity field. And we drew this line in form of ink, it's not a fluid. Okay? Then we'll be able to, at every point, be able to say, well, choose our little arrow delta S, essentially equal to or proportional to lambda times omega. Then what we can do, so this is just saying that I'm going to draw a die line and to coincide omega line. Then what we can do is we can just take the difference between these two equations. T omega times lambda omega minus delta s to of G. And so now we know that, so we can sort of, we can do this, right? There's nothing that stops us drawing a line in a particular way that coincides with omega. But this has allowed us to sort of write down an equation which has a trivial solution. If you make this put to 0 all places at one particular moment in time, right? And this side is also 0, then partial differential equation, which is your probability change of something which is 0 is equal to 0. So there is no change. So essentially, our vortex line, the line through, it kind of maps out the vorticity of the fluid that stays labeled as I. And so essentially, the vorticity is just transported by the flow. And you've in fact seen this in action, right? You've seen this in, let me bring this up. Okay, you've seen it in this video over here, the video of Dustin. Share screen. Okay. What we've done over here, okay, is put a little bit of dye right inside the fluid, and then a vortex is created at the positions where the dye is. The dye follows vorticity. Okay, so vorticity, in fact, in this case, is concentrated inside that ring. Okay, so this is, you kind of seen this. Okay, let me. So this is essentially a most important a second for vortex motion. Let me show you kind of another example of it. Yeah, okay, so let's okay, I'll show. Okay. Okay. So let's consider. Okay. What we're really looking at one of these rings. Okay, so what we're looking at when we're looking at one of these rings is a fluid flow, which the vorticity, which is curl of U, is equal to 0 everywhere, okay, except in the thin line where it's concentrated, which is our smoke ring or our bubble ring in this case. Okay, so we can immediately try to do is we can sort of try to ask, well, can we use this sort of speed laws of vortex motion in action? Can we understand from this ring and of these vortices that we sort of see in movies? And so the first thing example which I want to show you is sort of a pair of rings. But before we get to that, let me just switch this off.
So, if you fatten out your vortex line, that proof still works?
Yes. The first thing I'll ask is, just to make sure before we go back to that is, okay. So, if you have a ring, if you have something like this, okay, does everybody know how to calculate the velocity field that corresponds to that? You actually do know. Questions? It's one of the nice things about working there. Everybody's taken electromagnetism, right?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So everybody's calculating magnetic fields from current wires. Okay? So you know how to calculate the value of the magnetic field that comes from a current wire. You use the Biot-Savart law. And the Biot-Savart law is nothing other than the inversion of a curl, right? Because the curl of the magnetic field is equal to the current. So if you magnetic field from the current, you essentially calculate rho to minus 1 J. You know this is the Biot-Savart law. Okay? And now, really, as this thing, in this calculation over here, makes use of anything other than the definition of magnetic field in terms of the current. And for velocity participant, we have exactly the same relationship. So now essentially, you know exactly how to calculate the velocity field which comes from the distribution of vorticity. You just calculate the magnetic field from a wire where this wire traces out the line of vorticity, where the photon is sort of corresponding. Okay? So, so let's see. So if we take a ring, like it's a current carrying ring, then you sort of hold out the magnetic field corresponding to this thing looks something like this. Okay? So ring carrying wire, ring, I draw the magnetic field of the sun. So if I have a ring, which is a vortex ring, concentrated vorticity omega, then the velocity field corresponds to that vortex ring also looks like this. And so, what I want to do now is I want to show you a video, right, in which you can sort of see everything that we've been talking about in action. Okay. That's cool. Okay. So what I'm going to show you now is a video in which you take two vortex rings, okay? We shoot one ring out, and immediately after we're going to shoot the second ring. Let me just show you the video and then we'll talk about it. Okay? And what I hope is that, given everything we've said so far, now kind of know exactly what's going on, at least in terms of the dynamics, right? And so just to sort of play it out, okay? So we've established that the laws of vortex motion, okay, at least one of them which we've derived, tells us that if we have a vortex, and this vortex is kind of concentrated in the front, then it just transported by the flow. And we know the relationship between distribution of vorticity and the corresponding velocity is like that of a current carrying wire and a magnetic field. So we know that each ring makes a distribution of velocity around it, okay, which looks like what we drew on the board just a moment ago. Now, hopefully you can see that what's happening over here is that the first ring generates that velocity field, the second ring gets trapped in the velocity field and just transported by that velocity field. And in turn, the first ring gets trapped in the velocity field of the second ring, and these sort of alternate in stance. Okay.
What happens with 3 ring?
Huh?
What happens with 3 ring?
What happens with 3 rings? That's a very good question. Well, 3 rings, they will also orbit each other, but just like, it depends on the distance between them. So there's sort of different kind of ratios of whether they track each other or not. Mark, just how are we doing for time?
We're basically done for today.
Oh, we're basically done. Okay. So let me just try to summarize quickly. In fact, let me do that by. Let me just show you one more example and then we'll wrap this up. So this was an example which we did yesterday. Let me show you. So these laws of vortex motion really apply to any fluid, not just viscous fluids. And what I want to show you now is kind of a. Can you see this?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to show you now is a simulation, the quantum gas, the closed gas, of a pair of vortex rings. A pair of, sorry, this is two-dimensional, so it's a pair of point vortices. Okay? And you should know already the way to think about a point vortex in 2 dimensions is a straight line vortex in 3 dimensions. So that would be like an infinitely long current-carrying wire. And so you know that the velocity field around a straight wire just rotates around this wire. And so once you see one of these points, it is only whether or not the velocity field rotates clockwise or anti-clockwise. That just depends on what we call the charge of the vortex. So what I'm going to show you over here, the first would be the vortex on the top has a positive charge. The vortex on the bottom has a negative charge. So the flow field generated by the one on the top is anti-clockwise, and the flow field generated by the one on the bottom is clockwise. So the laws of vortex motion which we learned, we can predict what's going to happen with this quantum fluid to these two vortices. They're going to transport each other in that flow. So what you see is the bottom one, which has a clockwise flow, transports the one to the right, the top one transports the one also to the right. And so you can sort of now play from this basic law of vortex motion, understand the motion of these vortices inside those condensates, for example. The second example is where we start both vortices have the same charge. Okay? So now both of them are rotating anti-clockwise. And so what you see over here is that they both kind of rotate each other. The separation doesn't change, it's rotating around each other. And so essentially, we're getting the understanding of seeing what these vortices do in this quantum gas by thinking in terms of one law, which is the law I want you to remember from today. And basic law of dynamics, the vortices are transported by the flow. And the way in which you can calculate the flow that corresponds to a particular vorticity is kind of the same way we can calculate magnetic field and current. So with these two tools, you can now go and think about various vortex motions. You could think of, for example, a pair of long vortices which come out the back of an airplane. And you can hopefully now, here's an example of flow behind an airplane. With these two kind of basic tools, you should be able to predict which vortices are going to be next. You should be able to interpret and understand kind of the dynamics of most vortices which you see. So since I'm out of time, I think this is a good place to stop. Next time we'll see kind of we'll see the consequences of the law for complicated shapes, rings, and lines, and we'll start talking about this. Switch back to Skype so I can see.
Any questions?
Switch in swatch lines.
That was great, thanks.
And if you have time for next time, I'd encourage all of you to make a box with a hole in it, put some smoke in it, and try to make a vortex cup. You'll see it's actually quite easy. And if you have one, we can play around with it and we can see some of the properties of this vortices.
Okay, we'll try. There was a question, I think.
Yeah, so I was thinking these vortice particles, you could kind of think of them as like soft particles, and you were trying to predict their interactions, right?
Exactly.
And so were you getting attractive or repulsive interactions, sort of like you would with charges? Were you ever able to make a yeah.
Yes, okay. So that's a very good question. Actually, it touches some point that can be confusing about vortex dynamics. So let me answer that question. So, another way to think about this is I think is a little less useful in the context of dynamics. Is the way we think about a topological defect in any system. So, let's say you spoke. Have people lectured about topological defects?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
And others.
So, if you think about a vortex, let's say we consider a vortex in the quantum fluid, right, like one was for the last node. You can characterize this by look at the phase field. Phase field change from 0 to pi down to square. That's the phase field of the it's one think of us x is in terms of an object which has a charge q is 2 pi. Okay. And it could be plus or minus 2 pi, depending on whether the phase field goes around this way or this way. And then you could put this to your Hamiltonian, and you can make this into a sort of energy. You can ask what's the energy subject over here. So, then that can be for example, 2 dimensions. You have 2 vortices. You have a core energy. Vortices over here, plus and minus. Plus, you get a position, vortex 1, position 2. This is the same thing which you get if these are vortices, or if these are explanations, and so on and so on. That's just a different thing. Okay. It's kind of interesting. What's so funny about is it think about 2 objects action energy that depends on their distance, right? But the force that they exert each other is aligned twice. And so they would want to move either away from each other, or they would want to move towards each other. Okay? And if these are actually particles, then they would do that. Well, why can a particle do that? A particle can do that because it can transfer energy from field, with which it interacts with other particles, to its kinetic energy. Right? So you can move in response to a force, and you can accelerate mass. Switch between one form of energy and the other. Okay? But for a vortex and a fluid, all the energy is kinetic energy. There is no transfer, there's no mass of the particles that the energy can get transferred to. So in fact, the way to think about kind of dynamics of vortices is that their interaction energy has got to be constant. So they can't move apart from each other because that would change the energy of the entire energy, which is the kinetic energy. So if you think about vortices in terms of energetics and then pulling on each other, you can rapidly get confused because actually they don't move the direction of the radiant energy because the energy has to stay fixed. Another way to think about this is to imagine that you sort of somehow try to hold the vortices with some external object which has mass, like a rod or a particle, right? And then you would introduce mass into the problem. And then what you would find is that the fact that the vortices are spinning, right, means that the way in which it responds to the force, it's essentially the same way a gyroscope responds to the force. So if they push each other away from each other, towards each other, then they respond at 90 degrees to the force, either rotate. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was great.
Kind of a yes.
Mike, in the same vein as the previous question, if you add energy to the system somehow, can you drive the vortices to or manipulate them?
Absolutely. So, a familiar example of this, you guys have talked, did you have any thunderstorms or tornadoes or anything like that? So, okay. So, a sort of the magnetization happens pump energy in a electricity field comes from a formation tornado. Have a bunch of sort of flow which is around, then which is rotating right this way. Then you pump energy in by convecting. That's it. So what happens in that case over there is that the alignment, so the way that you pump energy in the system intensifies and go from kind of a weak vorticity to very, very strong vorticity by essentially pumping energy into the shell. So you can spin it up. Another example is the sort of smoke ring generator, which you saw first in use, where you put an impulse of energy into the fluid, and if you do it in just the right way, the fluid chooses to store this into the form of a vortex ring, which then travels away. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Anything else?
It's kind of, it's a little unfamiliar at first, but just think of these two things. They're transported by flow, and then actually not have a counter flow is no electromagnetism. You can expect an awful lot of vortex dynamics. So.
Thank you. I should point out it's 9 o'clock in the morning in Chicago, so William got up early to prepare and bike into his office for this, so I think we should thank him again. And same time.